Welcome back for prompt number 9, collage, fodder and junk mail. Hello and welcome to the treasured page. I'm Melanie and this is our quiet crafting space. And today we're having a look at prompt number 9. We're looking at junk mail. So junk mail doesn't always have to be an envelope that comes through the post. We always get this sort of thing as well. Advertising. This is advertising for dog food and that comes through. And bank things come through and the paper flyers come through. So that is what I'm using for my junk mail aspect of this challenge today. The other thing is collage fodder. What on earth is that? Well, it's a phrase that came about a few years ago and it is related to the spare or scrap papers from artwork. So it could be something that you create for the purpose of making collage, or you intended to make something artistic and these are your test ones, maybe your drop sheet papers or your pulls from a jelly print that didn't go anywhere, something that was discarded because it didn't have the print you wanted, it just had some texture on it, so it's collage fodder. And this sort of thing, inky papers that are not really overly exciting, so it's sort of a little bit too good for the bin if you're going to be doing anything artistic with it, but it's not going to set your world alight for any considered artistic project, so you would have to adapt and do things to it. So therefore it could be background papers for a collage. It's collage fodder. I think collage fodder is loosely based on cannon fodder, the derogatory term used in the military for people that were pushed forwards to be cannon fodder, meaning that they were expendable. These people were expendable because it was war and they had to send people over the edge or whatever they had to do, and therefore they wouldn't send their best fighters. They would keep their best fighters back and then the cannon fodder would go first. So therefore this is loosely related to that as far as I'm understanding, and it is just the okay but not brilliant scraps that we have. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for scraps that are okay but not brilliant. So your neutrals, or it's got nothing particularly about it, but it will put down a base layer. That's my understanding of cannon fodder, and it is often related in the art world as usually when it's brightly coloured paintings or jelly prints or splattered inks and dyes and paints and silk screening and all that sort of thing. It's just the sheets of paper that you maybe mop up the ink with. That is all collage fodder. It's all perfect for collage. So anything that's perfect for collage is collage fodder. So there we go. Right, I'm going to use my scrap tray. So what I want to do is put down some glue and relax into my quiet crafting space. I've got this sheet of paper here, so I'm not worried if I get glue on it. And we'll just lay the glue down here and put down the best side of my collage fodder along the edge there. Bring that in because that plain bit isn't so interesting, so I'll come in a bit just so that we can see the black musical notes. And that is a good background, or it could just be the writing surface for this potential card. Anyway, that's fine. It's a doggy. So we'll just cut round here. Okay, so I've put some glue down and now I'm just going to carry on adding some scraps over the top of this image so that we hide it. Sorry dog, but we need to get back into our story here. And I don't have a pet at the moment. We did have a pet. We had a cat for 15 years, but unfortunately we lost her this year, right earlier on in the year. I haven't been able to talk about it. It's just been so sad. So it's just a shout out to any subscribers out there that have lost their pets this year. I really understand and feel for you. It's very, very sad time, isn't it, when you lose a little friend? It doesn't even have to be this year. You'll still remember them. So yeah, just a hug and a little thought to you all out there if you have been in the position where you've had to say goodbye to a dear little friend. And this is a nice little way just to sit and relax and just process some of that and honour their life and quietly settle into a craft where you can just process all those thoughts and emotions. And that's what it's all about. It's about relaxing and taking your time, whatever time you need to just process that. And, you know, it all takes time, doesn't it? So that's what the channel's about, relaxing and slowing down a bit just to give ourselves time to process all the things that we are faced with when we're away from the crafting areas. And it's a busy old time in December, so we just do what we can and just remember that these prompts and these videos are going to be up there forever, so you can dip into them in January if you want to use some of these ideas, or just follow along, put on one of these nice videos and just slow down, relax your shoulders, give a stretch, roll your neck around and just drink some water and chill out. Or drink whatever you like and chill out, but make sure you're hydrated too. Okay. Yesterday we were talking about Marianne North, and this is the inspiration for some of the journaling taking place in this journal, just using the prompts as my guide. And I think what I'm creating here is a journaling card, and I want to do a collage page, I think, in the journal as well. So we're just going to see how this evolves and just relax into the gentle process that is gluing paper to paper and not having to think about anything too complicated. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't all need to be artists. We just need to be able to wield a good glue stick and a pair of scissors, and then we can relax and build up a little page or something just to forget about all what's going on and just calm down from the busy life outside. And that's all we need to worry about now. So I'm just cutting around there gently, bringing back in that curve that was already present in the original card, which is one of the reasons why I liked it. And then I'm just going to glue down anything peeling up. That's the right way up. So I think this is a bit of London map, which is quite good because that's where our artist comes from, or certainly where she lived for a time. She's from Hastings on the south coast of England, Marianne North, but she also spent time in London with her father and her sister, and taking part in society and certain endeavours over there. And what she would do when she would visit home is that she would spend a long time visiting the countryside, and she liked to have a look at the gardens, and she was very keen on botany with her father, Frederick North. So Marianne was at this point in her 30s, and she was learning the arts. She was learning sketching, drawing and watercolour, becoming a very good watercolour artist in her own right. Marianne North lost her mother when she was 25. She's been travelling the world with her father. She paints when she's away with him. She uses watercolour to paint. Now, one thing that we do know is that Marianne started to feel that her palette her range of colours within watercolour was too pale. It wasn't exciting her enough. She couldn't get the depth of colour that she was finding in nature. Some of the vibrancies of the flowers were becoming a bit lost, and so that was a stumbling block. It was sort of almost becoming boring for her. The watercolour just wasn't zapping off the page in the same way as she would like. Okay, so I've just laying down some bits here, and I shall just carry on. So Marianne is very keen on her watercolours and her painting, and one of the things that her father does is takes her to Kew Gardens, and they go quite regularly. Well, on one occasion she is invited to come into the main palm house, they call it, which is a huge, ornate, massive greenhouse, very beautiful, extremely hot. Do not go in August. I have been twice and it is stifling in there. So if you go to Kew Gardens, go in June, May or June. Do not go into that palm house in the height of summer. It is difficult when there's lots of people. You can't get through it quick enough. So avoid August or stonking heat. But anyway, she was there. So one of the passions that Marianne and her father enjoyed the most was this love of plants, botany and flowers. It was hugely fashionable and popular at the time. But visiting Kew Gardens with its 300 acres of land for botanical research was hugely interesting for both her father and Marianne as well. Lots of inspiration there, lots of plants to discover, and really, really inspiring place when you think travel was so limited to ordinary people. It was very, very hard because the transport wasn't there. So the animal for this prompt is the partridge bird, and I'm just cutting out the lovely plumage on top of the head there. So that is the animal card today. So talking about Kew Gardens, the Royal Kew Gardens in London, it's described as a powerhouse because it was getting all these collections of plants and seeds for botanical intrigue and interest and learning and discovery, and it was all coming. It was massive and huge. It was a real happening place. So to be able to go there, and for your father to have a friend there, Sir William Hooker, who took them round on visits and show them firsthand what was being brought over from other countries and what they'd discovered, and all these secrets and intriguing things that perhaps everyday people wouldn't get to hear about. Marianne and her father would be able to go to the places where public wouldn't have gone. So they would go to the actual epicentre of Kew Garden, where all the storage of plants, the herbarium and the library of plants would be kept. And so that was really, really inspiring for a young woman who seeked knowledge and sucked it up like a sponge. And being able to talk to somebody like Sir William Hooker was amazing for her. And he loved to talk to Marianne because she was well read at this point, and it's certainly in this subject. So he joyed to take her round and show her the plants that he had. And on one special occasion, he gifted Marianne a very special bunch of flowers, and I'll show you these. They had a sample of a tree from Burma growing in the palm house, Ambastera nobilis, and that is the flowers that droop down in these vibrant reds, and this is the colour that Marianne just couldn't grasp with her watercolours. So she was so intrigued by what she was seeing in nature, because in England we don't often see this vibrancy, and at that moment she was transported to another world, right in front of her, being given a bunch of these beautiful flowers and just utterly astounded by their beauty and not wanting to miss it, but being frustrated at the same time because she wasn't able to paint them in the same vibrancy as she was seeing before her. Marianne writes in her journal later and tells that this is one of the grandest flowers in existence. That was her thoughts on the matter. And it was in that moment that she decides that she really wants to visit the tropics, and it is something that grows inside her like a yearning for many years, and it's not something that she would be able to do as a woman, but she was fascinated and also frustrated because that flower would not be able to be preserved in those vibrancy of colours that she was seeing before her. So she tells all of this to her father because she can tell him anything. And what happens is Frederick North arranges for Marianne to meet with an artist from Australia, and that is Robert Dowling. He's an Australian artist, and he teaches Marianne how to paint in oil colours. And that is the turning point. She's then made that connection of how she can get these vibrancy of colours into her palette and be able to paint with a more realistic image of what she's seeing before her. She literally cannot stop painting in this oil paint where she's able to reach the quality of colour she's been so looking for. So if we back up just for a bit, she always went for it with full steam ahead. And I think after her mother died, one of the things she went to do was go and paint. And what she did was paint for an entire year mushrooms. Just toadstools and mushrooms and fungi of all kinds for a whole year. Which is why I shall be bringing more ephemera into the journal for mushrooms, because I have learnt that she spent an entire year studying the natural form and different styles and types of fungi around the UK, and when she went with her father to other countries, she would also make a study. And I think it's because the palette colours that you can achieve. These are the beautiful ephemera pieces here. This is all again from Black Creations. So I shall be bringing this into the journal as well. But I just wanted to point out that for a whole year she made this fantastical study on just fungi alone, and being able to bring that to life with her watercolour, which was a palette that would work well for earthy tones achieved with the browns and the greens and the greys of watercolour. But when she realised she could use these oil paints, that was that. She bought oil paint in every hue and colour and made sure that she could travel with it too. So when she went on to the next adventure with her father overseas, she was ready. And then that's what she did. So she would seek out the most colourful things she could paint, and she would just sit there for hours and paint away. She was so enthusiastic about the colour of things, and now could bring everything to life, almost as realistically painting as she possibly could get. In that time, we didn't have the photograph, so we certainly weren't bringing photograph back in colour from any of these places. So to bring colourful paintings back of plants and flowers in their natural habitat was highly exciting for Marianne. And in the last video I touched on the fact that Marianne was very fond of Charles Darwin. Well, Darwin was hugely influential and popular of the time, great botanist, science explorer and traveller, and had written his book on the world of evolution, which was hugely inspirational to everybody at that time, and they were all talking about it. It was the talk of the town. But how fantastic to actually be part of his friendship circle and take tea with the man and be able to pick his brains on many, many interesting topics, to be able to hear his theories on evolution and to learn and understand about the natural world. What an influence that she was given so early on in life to hear all about his travels, and it only infused this fantasy of being able to go and visit far-flung places one day was exotic and provocative for a woman who wouldn't have otherwise been able to entertain such a notion as to travel the world, and least of all be able to get to the places to paint them safely. So this fantasy of hers to be able to travel was one that grew within her over many years, and it wasn't until much later, when her father very sadly passed away, that Marianne was able to put together this lifelong yearning. And she was 40 when her father passed away. It was an incredibly sad time for Marianne. So her father dies in 1869, and Marianne goes into hibernation. She removes herself from everything and everyone, and ultimately ends up inheriting a huge fortune from her father, along with her brother and sister. There is plenty to go around, and with that kind of money, she had only one thing on her mind, and that was to escape from everyone and everything that she knew. Anything that reminded her of her father, she had to leave behind and get some distance, get some perspective. And so this is where the story takes off, because she decides to embark on her world travel, painting flora and fauna from around the world and bringing back her paintings to show the rest of England and Europe what other countries had to offer, but to paint them in their natural environment, and more importantly in colour. I'm just tearing down this jelly print image here to give me a nice backdrop of colour, because we've been talking about the vibrancy and colour that Marianne North is so keen to get her hands on. The oil paint that she was then her new chosen medium, and how fun would that have been. So I'm just going to cover up this rather dull brown, which just represents colours that she could not achieve, and we are going to replace it with something vibrant and fresh for her natural world paintings. And I think we'll just honour the colour and vibrancy that Marianne North fell in love with so early on, with the gift of this vibrant red flower from Sir William Hooker at Kew Gardens. And we'll just bring it in because we've got the reds there. This will tie in nicely. I'm just adding a bit of Fabri-Tac to the back so that we can make sure it stays securely. It is quite a shiny one. This is one of Tim Holtz's butterflies, I believe. I'm just going to put that in there. I want to be able to read that. The world will be ... her oyster. How wonderful. And just, you know, not wonderful that she's lost her father and all of those things, but wonderful that he has been able to provide her still with the opportunity to go and live the life she wants to live. And so off she sets on this adventure. And I'm just going to see if I can use this clear gesso. Is that what it is? Liquitex clear gesso I'm using, just to take away some of the shiny image on that butterfly, because it's just going to look better if it's dulled down a bit, I believe. But, So, and then I've got something to put in there if I want, and another picture could be, hidden there. So it's a lovely flip. So today we've created a fun flip using the junk papers and our collage fodder, which is just scraps, vibrant scraps, and pulling it all together into this fun story of wanting to visit the tropics and being able to use a different medium, so switching from watercolour over to oil painting and just being able to create a more vibrant palette must have been so exciting. So I love the contrast that we've got there. This is the natural eco dye versus these more modern paint colours that you can achieve, and this is the backdrop here with acrylic paint, something that wouldn't have been accessible to Marianne in 1869. However, I'm sure she would have embraced the colours and the vibrancies had she been alive today. So this is all very exciting. I'm very pleased to bring this page to you. I've had a lot of fun talking about my little stories and my musings and my learning about an artist, an intrepid explorer, and we'll find out all the places that she went to, and more importantly what she was trying to do and trying to achieve with her life work. So thank you so much for watching and listening. As I've said, my videos remain up on my channel forevermore. And if you'd like to follow the prompts for Defember, they are all in a playlist. And if you'd like to see the journal that I did before this one, you can have a look at the French Linen Botanical Journal, which is on a similar theme but set far into the future, into the 1920s. And this we are going back into the past to understand why Arthur Bully was so excited by plant hunting and plant collecting. Who was Arthur Bully's inspiration? Well, we will find out. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there and I will see you very soon in my next video. So above everything else, just slow down and make crafting time for you. Bye bye now.